It's a DACCAST. It's a DACCAST. It's a DACCAST. DACCCAST. Cause I said it's a DACCAST. It's a DACCAST. It's a DACCAST. DACCAST. DACCCAST. DACCCAST.
You're listening to DACCAST, produced by students of Danville Area Community College.
Hey, welcome back to DACCAST. I'm Erin Anderson.
And I'm Landon Frazier. Our mission with DACCAST is to create a platform that's made for students and created by students. We want all of you on campus to become more familiar with the faces you see every day here at DACC.
With that being said, we are so excited to bring you today's episode.
We are here today with DACC recruiter Alexis Simmons. We are hoping to learn a little more about you today.
So Alexis, with that being said, could you please introduce yourself and tell us what your role is here at DACC?
Yeah, my name is Alexis Simmons, and I'm the coordinator of recruitment and student engagement here at DACC. So I have two jobs, if you will, in one. The recruiting side, I go into high schools in the District 507 area, so the Community College District 507, which includes Vermilion County and then a lot of the surrounding counties, and I work to recruit high school students. And then once they're here, the student engagement portion of my job is to keep them engaged and keep them here. I also recruit for multiple different departments, like adult education, community education I could recruit for, and so anything really that DACC needs participants for, I can recruit for, speak positively about DACC, and hopefully get people here. And then, the student engagement side is all about keeping students here happy, giving them opportunities to do things that keep them engaged, things that they like, to make their college experience one that they love.
Do you like going to all the high schools?
I do. I actually, and I just started in August, so August 16th was my first day at DACC, and I have made it my goal to get into each high school at least once, and already there are some I've been in multiple times, and it's been really fun. Next week already, I have a school every day. Some days I have two schools, and I think it's awesome to get to go in, interact with the kids. I always thought that being a teacher would be fun, but I knew that I didn't want to be a teacher. So this position has given me the opportunity to use my love for education to recruit students to come to college. So I love college, I love school, and I like working with the high school age kids. So being able to go in and talk to them has been really gratifying and fulfilling.
What does a normal day look like for you?
Oh, well, I don't know if the recruiter has a normal day, but my Google Calendar is kind of scary. It has a lot of colors. I've color coded everything, so I know meetings with students look like are this color, meetings with parents are this color, high school visits are this color, etc. So I could just tell you about my day today. I started with a virtual conference presentation for county juniors, and then I came here to interview. After this interview, I'm going back to give another virtual presentation. Later, I have a prospective student visiting campus, and I'll take her on a tour, show her around, introduce her to academic advisors and professors in her program of study. And then after that, I have an event tonight at Westville High School where I'll go be there as an assistant, be there to help people with the FAFSA. So they're having parent-teacher conferences, and I'll set up a DACC table, and then I will hopefully recruit or talk to parents about the benefits of community college, and then help them fill out their FAFSAs.
Okay, so I don't know about you, Landon, but I did not know that DACC had college visits at all. I did not know that.
I don't know if it's like a commonly known thing, and I want to make that different in my job. Because DACC is smaller, obviously there isn't as much of a, maybe not necessarily a need, but you might not find it as common to do like a whole group tour. If you were to go to a big four-year school and you go sit, in a big auditorium, get a presentation, and then a tour guide takes you around the campus, and that's like a whole day. At DACC, obviously, like, we're a community college, we're smaller, and I've really enjoyed, so far I've done 3 of them. Students will reach out to me directly and talk through kind of what they're thinking, whether they want to just see DACC and see what it has to offer, see the space so they can see if they would visualize themselves here. They want to come look at campus and shadow classes, and because we're small, I like to grasp that and bring them on one-on-one. So I kind of like that, and it's not necessarily something that a ton of people know about, and so in this job, I hope to make that more common knowledge, that somewhere on the website and that maybe in advertisements in the future, reach out to the DACC recruiter if you would like to have a personalized tour or experience at DACC. So,
yeah, I had no idea that was a thing. I knew you guys do like the little orientations and stuff, because I had a one-on-one thing with the last recruiter, David Groves.
Yeah.
And It was really helpful, but I didn't know you guys had
Yeah.
actual tours. Okay, so we're gonna get into a little bit more about you and not just your job here. Okay, so you you attended University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, and you studied advertising.
I did, yes.
You want to tell us a little more about that?
Sorry. Yes, so I've been telling actually the high school students that I visit that I had no idea what I wanted to do when I applied to school. I applied to 13 schools, which was excessive and unnecessary because I obviously went to one. But I thought at the time that, applying to that many would give me options. I've always been an options person. Ultimately, I chose the U of I because of the scholarship opportunity that I was given there and the amount it was going to cost. It wasn't necessarily my dream school, but I kind of made it into my dream school while I was there. But I also, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so the first 2 years, I was in the Division of General Studies there. And I do love the concept at the U of I. You can take a lot of different courses, entry-level courses for the majors, count as different general ed credits. So I was able to explore like 8 different majors. I remember going into my advisor and being like, I have no idea what I want to do. Could I look at this, and this? And some of them had no connection at all. And she's like, yeah, we can make that happen. So I took some of the most random classes, but some of them were really, really cool. I took a science class about extinction and dinosaurs. That was just for science, but, I didn't have to take chemistry, thank goodness. I took a really cool globalization course in the human development department. I took intro to social work. I took intro to advertising. And it was getting to the end of my sophomore year, and I was still kind of like, I don't know what I want to do. But the advertising application was open, and I liked the class at the time, so I applied, and I got in. And so that's what I did. And now, so what I tell high schoolers is, like, if you don't know what you want to do, obviously come to DACC, because this is a place we're going to help you figure that out. You're going to spend less money, and you're going to be able to explore with talented faculty and staff who are going to help you get to where you want to be. Even though I wasn't sure that, when I made the decision, it was just kind of a, I have to make a decision. I have to have a major. There were things I really liked about it. I'm a creative person. I love to write. So I kind of thought that if I were to go work at an ad agency after college, I would do copywriting and kind of go that route. I also love reading. I read voraciously. Last year I read 125 books.
Oh, wow.
And this year I think I'm at 71, so I'm like 7 books behind, but I'll catch up.
I don't know if I've ever read that many books.
Yeah, probably not in 1 year, that's for sure.
It's like once I started this job, I had less time to read, which is okay. I listen to audiobooks when I'm driving to schools. But yeah, I'm behind schedule, so I gotta get it together.
Gotta pick it up.
Pick it up, yes. But I always thought, it'd be cool to go into publishing or editing. So I've always been into words, writing, things like that. And so I knew that there was an avenue within advertising that I could like, but I also was a little weary about going into the agency world and being, in corporate America in that capacity. It made me a little nervous because I was like, I don't know if that's me. So while I was at the U of I did a lot of work with different student affairs departments, and I had an internship with the Division of General Studies, and it was a media internship, so that was kind of cool because I got to use those skills from advertising that I liked in an internship with a higher education or an academic affairs department. And then I was really involved with the student alumni ambassadors, and so we got to plan some really fun student engagement events that were campus-wide. And I also had a fellowship with the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs my senior year. So in the back of my head, I thought higher education would be really cool because earlier I said I didn't want to be a teacher, but I love education and I like working with students. And so I kind of thought, higher ed would be neat. And most jobs in higher education, you have to have a master's degree to get them. So I was always not sure whether I wanted to spend money on grad school if I didn't know for sure. So this job was posted, and I thought, it's not advertising, but I get to use those skill sets. That was in the job description, writing, developing presentations, presenting to people, and kind of selling the school, right?
Yeah, you're advertising DACC.
Yeah, we're a service and telling the story of DACC and what people can do here. So I applied, and it's been the perfect fit. I love it. So I explain that because I think it's kind of funny sometimes when people are like, your degree's in advertising, but you're recruiting? And I'm like, yeah. But, yeah, that's that.
If you kind of think about it, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So you went to Danville High School.
I did.
And then you you went to the University of Illinois, but you said that wasn't your dream school. So what did you, plan to do before you ended up what you actually are doing now?
Yeah, I thought that and I still kind of think this, I always wanted to be a lawyer. So like my passion and something that gets me like really fired up is the criminal justice system in the United States, and people who've been wrongfully imprisoned for crimes they didn't commit. I had an experience where I got to go to Northwestern for a 2-week program in the summer between my junior and senior year, and it was called Legal Interpretation and Communication, and we ended up touring the Northwestern Law School and talking to a man who had been wrongfully convicted, and hearing his story, like still to this day, it just sits with me. And so it was always something that I thought, if I want to make a difference in the world and I want to do something really important, I would like to do that. As I started to kind of, my values, obviously, like, we're being molded in high school, and I was kind of becoming who I was going to be, I started to realize that a lot of my desire to be a lawyer was based in this desire to, like, prove myself. I wanted people to think that I was smart and think that I was good enough and think that I was capable. And while there was this area within law that I was really passionate about, the actual steps to get there were going to take me far off the path of, like, being the person I wanted to become, if that makes sense. So my dream school was Northwestern, and that was one of the 13 schools I applied to. And I did get in. The sticker price was terribly high. It was really overwhelming. And I ultimately just thought, like, one day I want to have a family, and one day I want to have a job that I love, but I want to be able to go home and, like, have a life too. And I don't think I was ready to give my whole life over to a career yet. And I think obviously people who are in law, some of them do very admirable work. And I think it's something I would still consider going to law school based on kind of how my life pans out. But, at the time, or right now, currently, I love being able to hang out with my family. I have a younger brother who's in high school, and I know that if I was in law school right now, I wouldn't have any time to be with my family, and that's one of my values, and one day I want to have a family, and I worried about stuff like that. And so I realized, I want to be humbled. I want to make decisions for Alexiss and not worry about what other people are thinking about me. And so the U of I just seemed like a better fit for who I wanted to become, and kind of where I saw my, what my values are now, and then where I saw myself being when I matured beyond, the age of a high school junior. So
actually, I thought about being a lawyer my senior year of high school.
Hasn't everyone thought about being a lawyer?
Yes,
a lawyer,
yes.
A doctor. That's one of my big things in my presentations. I talk about success, and I'm like, so how many of you feel like you can only be successful if you're a lawyer or a doctor? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to, I am really passionate about wrongful convictions. And I wonder, though, there are probably ways that I could be passionate about it and incorporate it into my career without going to law school. So I always wonder, is it the law part that I want to do, or is it the work, the actual topic? Is there a way that I could write copy for an organization that works with wrongful convictions? Could I do advocacy work? Could I advertise? So it's something that's still there. That passion and that fire is there. But ultimately, it wasn't at this point in my life something I wanted to create a career with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's important. It's necessary.
Yes, very much.
So we saw that you've worked at the YMCA as an outdoor instructor in Indiana. Mm-hmm. You want to talk a little bit about that? Like, what did you do over there?
Yeah. So the YMCA is actually YMCA Camp Tecumseh. So it's an outdoor center, and it's kind of confusing because it's a YMCA camp, but it's different than, like, a facility-wise. So, like, the YMCA we have here in Danville isn't the same thing. But I started going to that camp when I was 8 years old. So I went every summer, only for a week. Summer camp isn't always like how you see in movies where you go the whole summer and you're like the Parent Trap.
It wasn't like Camp Rock.
That's such a good movie.
Oh, it was. I still think about it often. I, kind of thought that that's what I wanted, but now that I look back on it, I'm so grateful that it was just, a week in the woods, not a whole summer. That'd be a lot. But so I went when I was 8, and I loved it so much. I went back every summer. When I got to college, I started working there as a counselor. So every summer I would go spend 9 weeks in a cabin, and I was a summer camp counselor for 2 years, and then a unit coordinator for the 13-year-old unit. So I spent my summers with 13-year-old girls, which was really fun, and just got to be a mentor and a role model to these young women who are now in college. And it's really weird because I know that 13's not that young, but they feel like, I don't know, seeing them all as freshmen in college now, I'm like, oh, this is so weird. I remember when you were youthful and and awkward like me. yeah, I went through this like Shawn Mendes phase, and I had a cabin that was really obsessed with the fact that I love Shawn Mendes. And so I see those girls now, like I'll be back at camp for a reunion or something, and they'll be like, do you still like Shawn Mendes? And I'm like, no, but I miss those days. Anyway, so then I was an assistant summer camp director after I graduated college. That's something I think people find interesting. I was always kind of expected to go straight into whatever it was, you know, whether it was going straight from undergrad to law school or undergrad to a career. But I I'd always put so much pressure on myself and worked so hard that I decided I wanted to take a break, and that's going to be okay. And I know that I have the motivation to get back into it when the time is right. So I decided to work at camp because I loved this place growing up. I wanted to give back to the place that I felt had raised me. And so, yeah, I went back after I graduated from the U of I, and I was the summer camp director after that. So camp works in seasons. So the summer season was obviously summer camp, and then in the fall, in spring, we have something called outdoor education, and that's when I was an outdoor instructor. So I was trained in 3 different educational programs. Indiana grade schools would come out to Tecumseh, and we would guide them through these educational programs that met Indiana state standards. So it was educational. We were outdoors. It was a lot of manual labor too when we weren't working with the schools. We were chopping wood, building fires, like cutting down baby maple trees, because maple trees are an invasive species, if you didn't know. So yeah, we would like walk through the oak forest cutting down baby maple trees, which sounds terrible, but it really wasn't. What else? We did like just so much stuff, like weeding a lot, picking garlic mustard, so like some beautification and landscaping, manual labor, and some teaching the youth of Indiana about the outdoors.
Do you think helping all those kids at the camp was what like made you interested in this job and like helping students here? Do you think it like inspired that?
It did. It definitely did. That interest like started at a young age. You know, I was 8 years old looking at my counselors like, oh, these are the best people in the world. And to this day, I remember the counselor that I had when I was 11 and 12. Like, I loved her so much that when I was 12, I emailed camp and I asked to have her again. And then now, like, we're friends. That I'm an adult, and she has 2 kids, and I talk to her often, and I visit her and her husband and 2 kids in Indianapolis. And like, she is a really big part of my life now. And so seeing people like that growing up made me definitely want to do what they were doing, to be able to have a positive impact on kids. And I think that as I got older, I realized that I didn't necessarily want to work with kids that young for the rest of my life. I just kind of started to get to know myself more and get to know my interests. And so while I loved working at camp, and like the 13-year-olds were so much fun, when I transitioned into being an assistant director, I got to work with the college-age kids and be their supervisor, and that was something I just loved so much. And so it started, you know, when I was young, and it led to where I am now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So transitioning from kind of basically backpedaling from everything we were just talking about,
Okay.
but what was your favorite part about growing up here in Danville?
Oh, I was very involved in, I don't know why I giggled. I was very involved in like Red Mask and DLO and
Same. I still do theater.
Good. And it's funny because now I'm not, and it makes me sad. I feel like music is the thing that's missing from my life. It was something I loved growing up. I went to Northridge and I did show choir. I was in Redcoats, and then I went to the high school and I was in, you know, contemps and delegation, and I did madrigals, and I like loved it. I played the oboe.
I played clarinet, so it's totally okay.
I played saxophone for like 5 minutes.
But see, those are like, yeah, those are, yeah. Oboe is really awesome. Obviously I'm an oboe nerd, but it's one of those that you don't hear people often being like, I play the oboe.
You still play the oboe?
I haven't taken it out in, I think, 2 years. But
You should have brought it.
I know.
Yeah.
Dr. Nacco and Laura and Guido are trying to convince me to bring my oboe and be in the pep band at DACC, so that's unheard of, an oboe being in a pep band. But I was like, I'll have to practice a little bit before I get it out. I don't know what it would sound like. But I would be interested in getting it back out. So I just thought, you know, Danville is a place where there are so many negative perceptions and we hear so much negativity about it. And it's like exhausting because there are so many good things here. And to have come from this place and to have been involved in the good, and I think like the arts are really appreciated here. And that was something I was very involved in when I was younger. And the community surrounding it was phenomenal. You know, the support we had, the amount of people who came out to support the shows, like would actually come watch them. Or even I remember with DLO, you know, going to the backstage or upstage at, I think maybe it's called upstage because it's upstairs. It's like a play on the word.
I think that's what it is.
Where they keep all the, you know, props and costumes and equipment. Being able to just see like all the volunteers that would come help, you know, tear down shows, and it was just a good time. And I got to know, you know, myself. I think that I really love public speaking, and I don't necessarily have the confidence to perform like I did when I was younger now. So like singing and acting, I wouldn't be as confident now, but I think that those passions led me to being good at what I do now. So I guess I owe my skills to the people who shaped those experiences when I was younger. And yeah, it was a fun time.
Yeah, I do theater and sing and all that and stuff, and DLO's been like, we just did a show this past summer, and the support's crazy for all the people that come out, and they do that like annually, like they come out all the time. What do you like to do in your free time? Like, what's some interesting hobbies you have?
I read.
Oh yeah, 125 books?
Yeah, so I read a lot. I really like reading. I also really like to visit my I visit my friends a lot, so I'll go over to camp every now and then and visit people who still work there. And I because of camp, I wouldn't consider myself outdoorsy, but I like love kayaking. And stand-up paddleboarding. So when it's like warm outside, I like to be on the water and doing things like that. I also recently developed an interest in cycling, so I bought a Trek road bike, and I've been cycling, which has been really cool. So yeah, I like, it's mostly reading and exercising are the two things that I, you know, because if I'm not reading, then I'm probably doing something, like whether it's cycling. I love to swim. Last year I coached the 8 and under swim team. I was the assistant coach at the YMCA, and that was so fun because I got to develop this new interest and work with young kids and teach them how to swim. And I also learned how to swim like a swimmer, and so I now in my free time love to go to the YMCA and swim laps. I haven't been in a while, so I need to I've been lazy. But I just write that off as, you know, I just started a new job, and I'll get back to it. But yeah, so reading, cycling, swimming, and then visiting friends mostly. I also, my best friend is my little brother. He's 15. He's a freshman at DHS, and we hang out all the time. He'd be embarrassed to know that I said that.
I think it's okay.
But we
totally
are best
fine.
Did you have someone in your life who played an important role in what you do today and who you are? You're like, no, absolutely no one. I did.
Well, you
this all
talked
on
about the person at camp,
Yeah.
and then you still go visit her. Was that like one of your mentors that you would say, or did you have any teachers or anybody like that?
It takes a village, is what I will say. And I guess that question is hard for me to answer because there have been I think I've been blessed to have so many people who have been in support. I wouldn't say that there's one. You know, I think a lot of people would be like, oh, my mom or my dad. And for me, that's not necessarily the case. So I did have some really awesome people. And I guess at this point, I want to highlight, you know, the people who supported me through college and mentors that I had that kind of led to this career. When I interviewed for the job, the person I talked about, her name is Jen Heinold, and she was my academic advisor in DGS. And she was the one who sat down with me, and I told her, I was like, Jen, these are the 8 different majors I want to explore. I have no idea what I want to do. And she sat down and was like, okay, well, let's figure out a way for you to explore all of these things. And I got to do that. So she kind of opened that door. She made time to meet with me in the dorm I lived in freshman year. They're called residence halls at Illinois. The residence hall that I lived in my freshman year had a living learning community in the basement, and so there were offices down there, and I got to go down and talk to her. So, you know, if I'd just rolled out of bed at 9 a.m., I could go down in my pajamas if I wanted to. I never schedule anything before 11. In college, I never had a class before 11, though, because I'm very bad at mornings. Yeah. So, yeah, I met her down there once, and she walked me to get coffee because she could tell, you know, she was like, oh, you're going to have a long day today. Let's get you some fuel. And it was just like sweet gestures like that. She made me realize, like, there are people who help students like me figure out what they want to do. And I think she's a big reason why I'm here today. Like I told them in my interview, I want to be like Jen. I want to be able to help students realize what they love, help them get to the point where they can do what they love. And I want to be that. So Jen is a huge inspiration to me, and and she's not the only one. You know, I had 2 other academic advisors during my time at the U of I, and they were both phenomenal as well. So I think that was something every time I'd go in for an advising appointment, I would think, I would like to be an advisor one day. That'd be pretty cool. So, yeah.
That's so fun. What attracted you here to this position that you have now to kind of come back home, if you would say?
Yeah. Well, my mom actually sent me the position description in the News Gazette. I thought that was funny because she's like, you don't read the news, Alexis. So I thought, I do. It's just on my phone. But she's like, you don't read the newspaper. So here's this job description. I think it'd be perfect for you. And I had been searching. I had a really hard time applying to things because I had been at camp and then we got sent home because of COVID. And I was in this space of like, I don't really know what I want to do. I was just kind of like sad and also overwhelmed. I was like, do I have experience enough to apply to an ad agency? Is that what I'm limited to? Higher education jobs, it seems like, you know, if I wanted to go apply to be an academic advisor, I needed a master's degree and I just didn't have that. So I was just kind of feeling down and out and having a hard time deciding what to apply to. I would spend hours on like Indeed and LinkedIn looking through jobs and just feeling like, oh, none of this is, you know, making me excited. None of this like makes me want to apply and go work. So when my mom sent me the position and I read it, I was like, wait, that's it. That's perfect. Because it has a little bit of everything, right? So even though I'm not at an ad agency, I'm getting to sell DACC as a service to people, getting to work with students in the age group that I'm most interested in. I didn't necessarily need to have a master's degree. It was one of the qualifications that was like, oh, we would like this, but not necessary. And I just, you know, I've always heard really good things about DACC and the people who work here, and so I wanted to give it a shot. And when I applied and then interviewed, I walked into the interview and knew like right away, like these are people that I want to be with. They were amazing. So I think it was just kind of, you know, I was home and I wanted to, since my little brother is a freshman, I also have a brother who's a senior in high school. I always wanted to be close enough to them that I could still be a part of their lives while they were growing up. And so it just kind of made sense. I was home and this job came up and it seemed literally perfect for my interest and my skill set. And then the rest is history, as they say. So.
Was staying in Danville the one thing you always wanted, or did you want to go somewhere else? Or
No, actually, and that's something my friends will still make fun of me. They'll be like, I can't believe you're working in Danville and you never wanted to stay. And something that I actually struggled with growing up was like, I didn't want, it was always a battle. There were two sides of it, because there was a part of me that sometimes I would just get emotional and cry because I'd be sad that my life was going to change so drastically. You know, when I would interact with my brother when I was a junior in high school and he was much younger, I'd be like, oh, it's not going to be the same when I leave. And what happens if I move across the country and I'm not here? And I know obviously change is an inevitable part of life, but I like really just struggled with it sometimes because I was like, I love these people. This is home. It's a small town. When I was growing up, I don't know if this is true or not, but adults in my life used to tell me that Danville was like in a basin, and so tornadoes like wouldn't hit Danville because they would just jump over the basin. And I was so scared of like thunderstorms and tornadoes growing up, so I always thought, well, even though I like don't necessarily want to stay in Danville, maybe it's the best place to stay so that I'll never experience a tornado. I don't know what that logic is, but in the back of my mind, sometimes I still catch myself thinking, well, at least like I don't need tornadoes in the time I've been here, so that makes me feel good. But okay, so I guess there was always a side of me that felt sad about leaving, but then the other part of me, the part that I like portrayed to other people, was like, I hate it here, I want to leave. And I mean, I did have a hard time. I think you know, like I grew up biracial, and being biracial in Danville is a very different experience. It's relatively hard. So I struggle with that. I struggle with like kind of finding, I kind of like always felt like I was in but out, if that makes sense. So like, you know, I had friends in show choir, and I was in these classes with kids who were also very intelligent, and I was the president of the senior class, and I was very involved in high school, but I also kind of just felt like misunderstood. And so that part of me was the part that wanted to leave and experience something different. But then, you know, when I left camp because of COVID, I was home, and it felt right. And I don't know if I'll be here forever. I love this job so much, so I want to stay in it for as long as possible. But obviously, I don't know what 10 years down the road holds and what might happen and what might change. But yeah, I think I never really thought I wanted to stay in Danville, but there was always a part of me that knew that for a little period of time I probably would. And then the last thing I'll say about that, I had a high school teacher who said, you're going to come back to Danville and do really awesome things for the people who live here. Like, Danville is a place that needs people like you to make it better. You know, like, where it is lacking, we need people to make it better. We need people to make positive change here. And I was like, no, I'm not coming back. I will not be there. That will not be me. And now that I'm here, I'm like, oh, yes. I see what he means. That is exactly the kind of person I am. So.
I can definitely relate to that in a lot of ways. I never, ever thought I would go to DACC, ever. Yeah. And now here I am, a sophomore, and still here. And now I'm serving my community in a way that I also never thought I would do. And I get to represent the county that I come from at a state level in January. So that's really exciting.
That's awesome.
Okay.
What is some of your favorite memories that you have either in your work life or your personal life? Do you have like one that stands out?
I think a fun one. One time I bought myself a ticket to see Justin Timberlake in Indianapolis, and I didn't have anybody to go with, so I went by myself. It was like kind of awkward because I was surrounded by people who were like with groups of people, and I would be like singing the songs and like trying to make connections and be like, oh, this is so fun, but no one knew me, so I was like, oh, this is weird, but I loved it. Like, it was so liberating to be able to go by myself and feel confident enough to do it. And it's like a huge venue. Like, going to stuff like that by yourself is not something I'm like relatively I get like nervous sometimes in social situations, like large. That sounds weird as a recruiter. I feel like I shouldn't say that, but like large venues like that, I'm always like, oh. So the fact that I did that was really cool. Otherwise, I think I have it's hard. I think sometimes I don't stop to think about how good my life has been, and like even just the opportunity to go to a summer camp is something that so many kids don't get to do, and so like I was privileged in that way, and I have so many fond memories of that place and being there every summer when I was a kid, and then just other experiences that I've had, and there's so many. So
it's a hard question.
It is a hard question. It's a hard. I know you said like what is one of instead of what is your favorite, okay. But
what are some long-term and short-term goals that you have for your position here at DACC?
Yeah, so some short-term goals on the recruitment side. One of them is overall establish relationships with the schools that DACC serves. So the goal is to get into each high school at least once before the end of the semester, and I'm very close to doing that. So I just have a couple more high schools that I need to schedule actual visits for, but I have been in contact with every single high school, including a couple over in Indiana that we have geographic reach with. So that's been fun. And then I obviously want to increase recruitment numbers in the short term. Our numbers were down from COVID. So in the short term, I think it'll be relatively, hopefully, easy to bump those numbers up between 5 and 10% in the short term. And in the long term, obviously, just getting that number up much higher would be great. I think so because I graduated from Danville High School, I would like to see more DHS students here. I think when you look at the data and see how many students from the county or the like outer schools come into DACC, that number, seeing the Danville number compared to that is kind of like, wait a minute, because Danville is a relatively big school. So I would like to work on getting more DHS students at DACC, as well as continuing to recruit from the county schools as well. And then student engagement on that side of things, I wanted to develop a more streamlined experience for student engagement at DACC. Before, there were a lot of different committees and a lot of teams responsible for putting events together for students, and some of that has shifted since I've been here, and there's a student engagement and activities committee that is now chaired by me, and so that's been something that I've achieved so far at DACC. And then I have been running a student experiences survey, so if neither of you have taken it, feel free to do so. You might have already. And any listeners who haven't taken the survey. But my goal is to get 500 responses by the end of October, and I think I'm at around 370 today, so that's really great. Just to kind of see what students' perceptions are of DACC, so that I can then create goals to fix that and to make things happen. In the long term is, yes, to develop clubs and organizations that are interesting and engaging for students, and to make DACC a place where people feel engaged and feel like they're having a good time. Sometimes I think community colleges have a stigma because they're commuter campuses, because people don't live here on campus. Because it's not a 4-year school, we don't have the same types of resources that people will be like, oh, it's not real college. But I want to completely change that perception. And I think luckily a lot of the students do feel like DACC has great opportunities, but I just want to continue to strengthen that idea that DACC offers some amazing opportunities and you can get engaged here and feel just like you're at a 4-year school. You know, if you choose to do a 2-year school because it's going to benefit you, like we're going to make this experience, it's going to be college. You know, when you graduate and you're saying, I went to college, it doesn't really matter, right?
Just you went to college.
Just you went to college. So I want them to feel like DACC is, yes, like that.
Yeah. How do you go about getting students involved and interested here with an education here at DACC?
In education specifically?
Well, no, like with getting an education here at DACC.
Oh,
Sorry.
Okay. One of the things I focused on right now is talking about the unique programs that DACC offers. And so, like, we have some super cool things to offer people. Obviously, we have esports and pep band, and the automotive department has a racing team, so they soup up their own cars and take them and race. We host an NJCAA basketball championship every spring. We have Trio, which is an amazing student support service. We have so many other things to support students. And so I kind of approach it from, if you come to DACC, these are all the ways that we're going to support you and all the ways that we're going to make your college experience great. In addition, we have some really unique, awesome programs that use state-of-the-art equipment. We have trained faculty who are amazing. You're going to get hands-on training and take that from here out into the real world. And so your return on investment is going to be fantastic, right? A lot of people... I think just highlighting those things about DACC that make it accessible, it's affordable, and then you're getting this training, you're getting a fantastic education for like, what, a quarter of the cost, you know, of going, you know, I know what my bill is to the U of I, and it's wild, and I know people who are going to DACC right now for free because of, you know, filling out the FAFSA and getting financial aid, having scholarship opportunities, etc. So focusing on those things and then highlighting these are the programs we have, and if you're interested in transferring, our programs are going to transfer. If you're interested in getting a career degree, we have 1 to 2 year programs that will get you to where you need to be. So,
what are some of your personal goals with your career?
Yeah, I think I would love to get a master's degree. I do think I'm going to pursue, I still am undecided on whether I want to pursue a master's degree in not advertising specifically, but something, whether it's related to copywriting or branding or strategy, going that route, or if I would like to do it in higher education or kind of a blend of both, maybe an MBA because that's general. So kind of making that decision and figuring out what I want to get a master's degree in, but I would love to continue my education. Because, I mean, I think that one day, if I stay in higher education, I would love to work on the academic affairs side of things, being an academic advisor, but I love like academic and student affairs. Both of them I just really like interacting with students. So being able to expand my knowledge, learn as much about the field as possible so that I can be a resource to students is something. So I just want to continually learn and grow in the field. And I mean, I like to think about, I actually tell the high schoolers this when I present to them. I think it's important to think in the long term, right? I don't want to negate the long term or disregard it because that's something that I need to work towards. But I think ultimately, like in the long term, I want to be happy and I want to be comfortable and I, you know, want to be able to provide for myself without being concerned. And I want to go to work every day and love it. And, you know, all of those things are things that are happening now. So I know that even if I stayed in this job for years and years, that I'm going to feel that way. So I like to focus on the short term and like, what do I want to do in the next 1 to 4 years that are going to enable me to see more clearly what my long-term goals are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense. Time for DACC Attack.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
so it's called DACC Attack. We do it at the end of the episode, and we ask you just silly questions, and you have to answer as fast as you can.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so it's just like this or that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so music or movies?
Movies.
Guac or salsa?
Guac.
Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Roommates or live alone?
Live alone.
English or math?
English.
Big family or small family?
Big.
Concert or sports game?
Concert.
Walk or run?
Walk.
Chocolate or vanilla ice cream?
Vanilla. Wait, wait a minute. Sorry. I think chocolate ice cream is gross, but vanilla ice cream is plain, so.
Okay, so.
But if I had to choose vanilla, but I don't really like either.
Okay, strawberry or lemon ice cream?
Lemon.
Lemon is so good. So good. Halloween or Christmas?
Christmas.
So excited for Christmas.
I love Christmas.
Thank you so much, Alexis. We really appreciate you sitting down with us today and just talking about everything. So how do people go about getting in touch with you if they're interested in getting your expertise?
Yeah, so my email is a.simmons@dac.edu. DACC. I figured you all know how to spell that. So you can email me. My phone number is 217-443-8593. So if people want to call, I mean, I'm pretty accessible through email and calling. I would love to chat with people. I could set up meetings. My office is a little bit of a hot mess right now. I'm working on decorating and nesting, as they say. But hopefully I'll get that organized soon. So if you'd like to come see my office, it's Lincoln Hall 109, and it's right across from Subway. So stopping by my office, reaching out via email or phone will be a good way to get in touch with me. And whether people wanted prospective students or anybody who was interested in what DACC offers could schedule a visit, and I could set up, meetings, shadow opportunities, etc. Or if they just, current students had ideas about student engagement or wanted to chat with me about my efforts on campus, whatever it was, I'm open to everything.
Well,
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for being here. And this has been DACCAST.
With Erin and Landon.
Stay classy, Jaguars.